Hello and welcome back to the channel. It's been a very long time, probably 3 or 4 months since I last published a video. And that's because we've been super busy trying to move houses. As you can see, we've got a brand new backdrop behind us. And yeah, things are very chaotic and we've just been trying to settle in. But thankfully, I'm back, and that begs the question, what happens to all those aquariums we previously had? Well, I'm happy to say it, we finally have our own Aquascaping Studio. You know, for the longest time, I've always really wanted to have my own dedicated space for aquascaping. And yeah, the right chance came along. We're super grateful to finally have the space. And yeah, here we are on Durra country in Sydney. Now this space was originally a home office. It measures about 3 meters by 3 meters. And we have a window that faces east, and that brings in the morning sun and its very first space that you see when you come into the front door. I wanted to design the space to feel like a gallery where each aquascape is celebrated as a piece of art and where I can zone out with a slice of nature. With this in mind, we have two 60 centimeter layouts on the right, a 60 centimeter and a 90 centimeter layout in the center, and a Nano Bench on the left. As for the material palette, I wanted to keep it consistent with just two materials, glass and timber. We have grey timber cabinets and glass tanks with glass stands. And lastly, some tropical art to finish it off. Now I know there's a lot to show you, so why don't we just start with a quick tour of the studio. So right behind me, we've got the two 60 centimeter tanks. This is an ADA 60F and this is a ADA 60P. They're both sitting on these LUSH glass cabinets. They look very similar to the ADA ones. Yeah, I really love these because they give the impression that the tanks are kind of like floating in the air. And then on either side, we've got two Chihiros Vivid 2s. These are hung from stainless steel aquarium light stands from Litty Aquaria. We had them custom made. They've got like these little brackets that fix to timber boards at the middle and down at the bottom on the floor as well. All right, let's talk about this ADA 60F. We've got a Oase Biomaster filter. This scape was actually originally done for an episode on Gardening Australia, and that aired on TV probably November or September, sometime last year. And this scape has been running ever since then. We've got these kind of nice lines of local driftwood that come through. And then this has actually turned into a very low-tech setup. You know, we've got many tanks in the studio, so some of them need to be a little bit more easy maintenance. So we've got a lot of epiphytes. We've got Bucephalandras, Anubias, and then some Pogostemon erectus that's sticking out. And then these are Amazon swords that are sending out babies. And then for livestock, inside we've got some Celestial Pildanios, a couple of orange Neocaridina shrimp, and 1 or 2 crystal red shrimp in there as well. Overall, really love this layout. Super low maintenance, water change 50% once a week, and then I dose APT complete as fertilizer. All right, next up, the ADA 60P. This is slightly taller, so it's 60 centimeters by 30 by 36 centimeters high, so it's taller than the 60F. We have the ADA Superjet ES600 for filtration, and in this scape, we originally did it just for fun. I had a couple of interesting pieces of wood as hardscape, and I was just mucking around, playing around with it, and then I actually really fell in love with the layout. I'll overlay some of the hardscape photos. And then I thought, you know, this is a really good opportunity to collect all the different plant species that I really love. So a lot of it in here are Bucephalandras. We've got really rare mosses. We've got boost moss, probably 10 to 20 different kinds of Bucephalandras. We've got the really famous Boost Brownie Ghost 2011 in here. Mix of other ones, Kedagang, Mini Catherine, Mini, Belindae. The list goes on. I'm not even sure. Some of them are just really nice. I just love them. And then the other thing that I've really loved is I've managed to get my hands on a very rare plant here in Australia. And this is that tall grassy plant at the back. This is aerial colon needle leaf. So in Australia, it's very hard to get long grass types. You either only get Cypress halferi or Eleocharis vivipara. Not quite the look I was after. This is kind of the perfect look. It gives you that nice draping effect. Grows really slowly as well. And the kind of blade, the thickness of the blade is quite thin. So yeah, we've got beautiful species here. As for livestock, this is a little bit overstocked at the moment. We're going to move some of these to the 90p, but we've got Cubotyras boras, Ember tetras, and green neon tetras as well. We've got a small colony of crystal red shrimp. These kind of came in, I only had 2 at the very beginning, and they happen to be a male and a female. So there we go, they've had lots of babies, and those babies have had babies since. And now we have probably 20 to 30 crystal reds in here as well. Now the plan for this tank is to keep it as long term as possible. So all these plants in here are quite low demanding. There's no soil. Oh, actually there's a little bit of soil at the back for the aerial colon. But other than that, the plan is to kind of just keep growing out these rare plants, sell them and change them up, add some more to the collection. And I think going on from the previous layout, you know, this tank is also a lot of slow growing plants, and this is just for me, you know, something that I can just come and admire and love all these different types of plants. As for fertilizers, same, we've been using the 2-hour Aquarist APT Complete. Really easy to use fertilizer, no algae issues at all. The plant health is really amazing, as you can see. I've got a code for you if you're interested, Scaping Architect 15, link down below. All right, next up we've got the ADA 90p. It measures 90 by 45 by 45 high. Also filtered by Oase Biomaster thermo. We've got CO2 injection, inline CO2 injection, and then a Chihiros autodose as well. So this is probably the highest tech layout in here. This layout, it's the first time you've seen it. We've got a build video of this coming up. This layout is interesting because I actually got 3 friends to come along and scape it with me together. It was like a tag team situation where each person had a piece and they added to the layout. So yeah, something very different. For me, it was a way to involve others in the hobby because usually when I scape, I do it alone. So yeah, this one, interesting. It's not really like my particular style, but I'd say it's a combination of everyone's style. And yeah, it's just interesting, a bit of a fun tank to do while it's the off season of competitions. So in terms of plants, again, just trying out different plants. I work closely with the guys at AquaPlant Culture. So this is some of their range. We've got Leleopsis carpet in the front, Hygrophila araguaia, Ranunculus inundatus here, some Hygrophila pinnatifida, some Java ferns. We've got Trident and Needleleaf Java fern, some Weeping Moss, Banana Lily, and in the background we've got Juncus repens, we've got the Ericolon Needleleaf, some Blixa albuti, or albuti, I don't know how you say it. Yeah, and so this is basically what I did was I sent the guys a request saying, hey, send me 3 plants that you'd like to use in this aquascape. And then all of them listed 3 plants. I tried to source all of them, and here we are. So it's a mixed match of layout and plants as well. In terms of livestock, these are glow light danios, also known as Danio chopre. I've been looking for these for ages, really difficult to get in Australia, pretty expensive as well. But man, they are so cool, such cool fish. The colors are really like, I guess subtle, but also really unique as well. We've got like this bright orange strip and then kind of bands. For me, the behavior is really interesting. Very active fish. They constantly like chase each other around, trying to like sort out like a pecking order almost. You can see them like darting around all the time as well. And just the way they swim about, they get really close into like the crevices of the hardscape, in the plants as well. They explore like every single corner of the layout. Yeah, and they're just super awesome to watch. Sometimes they school really well together as well. When I'm doing like a water change, they all school really tightly as well. So yeah, definitely a fish that is definitely very interesting to watch and keeps me occupied for a very long time. Yeah, so the plan for this layout is we're just gonna keep going, keep tracking. We've had a little bit of algae issues. That's why some of the plants at the back aren't looking too great. We've got some staghorn and BBA issues, but yeah, APT fix does the job for me. Been slowly getting on top of that. The plan is just to grow this out to a very beautiful nature aquarium style layout. And you know, just to maintain it until probably December-ish, and that's when, you know, the comp starts again. And I just use this time to brainstorm what I want to do for next year's layout, but also it's a good time for me to try different plants and actually just hone in on the maintenance and the trimming skills. Yeah, overall, pretty happy. For all of the tanks I've been doing 50% water change weekly. So yeah. All right, next up is the Oase Scaperline 60. This tank has been featured on my channel a couple of times. I did a video on kind of the tank and the cabinet set. Really impressed. If you haven't watched it, you can go check it out. And then you've also seen a video of the hardscape of this. Now, it looks slightly different because when I was moving the tank, one, it was quite heavy, so I had to take some of the rocks out. And two, I wasn't 100% satisfied and happy with that previous rock arrangement. So I've tweaked it a little bit more. We've used Suru stone. This kind of left rock is the same, but on the right side, we've kind of changed it up a bit. Now I think it looks a bit more like a diorama style mountainscape. And for the carpet, we've got UG and Monte Carlo. It's a mix. It's my first time mixing these two. I'm actually quite liking it. The fact that the different textures of the round leaf Monte Carlos with the blades, long blades of the UG is actually working out really well. I'm really loving it. The light is the ADA Aquasky RGB version 2, and it's doing a fantastic job. I must say, like the color rendition of the greens are like really, really nice. The difference between the V1 and the V2 is that the V2 has an app, so there's like presets, you can set on a timer. There's like a soft start and soft close, basically like slowly lights up, slowly dims, so it doesn't scare your fish. It is also slightly more powerful. It's a grey color, which matches the cabinet really well. And I think it's slightly wider and better heat dissipation. As for the plans for this tank, I think we're gonna keep it running as long as possible. I'm gonna try and trim it back as well. Once it's starting to settle in, we'll get a nice and dense, thick carpet. And then we'll just see how we go. I think this is one of those tanks as well. It's fairly high tech. It might require a lot of trimming as well. So, you know, I factored that in. These two tanks behind me are more high maintenance tanks as compared to the two 60F and the 60P. Yeah, so, you know, this is where I would probably dedicate more of my time to maintaining. All right, we are at the final stop. This is the Nano Bench. This bench measures 120 centimeters. It is from IKEA. I think it's called the Besta cabinet. Surprisingly, this shade of gray matches the Oase and the ADA cabinets as well. So the shades of gray are very close together. I'm very happy about that. Yeah, and on here we've got 3 nano tanks. 2 of them are temporary, and I'll tell you why in a second. On the far right, we've got a 30 centimeter nano tank. It is my first ever aquascaping tank. It was given to me by a friend. It's from Kmart, which is just a general purpose store, nothing fancy there. And then in the middle, we've got a Dua Terra base display. And then over here, we've got a 45 centimeter diorama layout. Now, this 45 centimeter and that 30 centimeter tank left and right, these are temporary scapes because we are going to be selling them at an upcoming spring festival at Zen Oasis. Long story short, the guys at Zen Oasis reached out to me. They have a spring festival coming up and we are taking some of these displays over there. We're going to be running some workshops and these two will be on sale. And so, you know, these tanks have only been here for maybe a month or two and they're looking pretty good. We'll show you in detail, but these are just going to go and then we're going to replace them with some more smaller Dua-like setups. Let's talk more about this 30 centimeter tank. In here, we've got the hardscape being dragon wood or honeycomb wood. It's very like sharp, very aggressive kind of details with holes inside. Kind of looks like dragonstone, but the wood version, which is why they call it dragon wood. In the foreground, we've got a full carpet of glossostigma. It's pretty tall. I think I need to give it a trim again. And then a mini Liliopsis in the background as well. I went with nature style aquarium because it's such a small tank. You want to be able to enjoy all the plants and be able to enjoy maintenance as well. Even like this, trimming is sometimes a little bit tricky just to get your hands in and all that. So yeah, I think this is the layout. I think something that's quite interesting is I've actually made this piece separate and can actually lift it and take it out while you're doing maintenance. Just so you know, it's just a bit easier to get your hands in and whatnot. And that's something I learned from Stephen Chong. The way you build the hardscape is like Lego. And if you can remove some pieces to make your life easier during maintenance, I mean, why not? And you know, in his crazy competition layouts, that's one way. But you know, you could equally do the same thing in these tiny layouts where you still want to be able to get your hands in, trim that bit of glosso. So usually what I do is I just take out this piece straight here, you know. It's one piece, comes up, and then once I'm done trimming, I just pop it back in place. Yeah. So with this tank, I've never experienced any algae issues or any diatoms at all, which is quite crazy. This was only set up maybe four weeks ago, and I used mature substrate or used substrate. This is ADA Amazonia version 1, but it's been used. And then in the Diamax Slim Flow filter, we've got used or mature biological media from one of the other tanks. So I think all in all, it's been a very smooth process, which is good. And the other thing I've been doing is injecting CO2 24/7. So in this tank and in the Brazilian diorama, both of them have 24/7 CO2. It's a little bit more expensive, but we're on a crunching deadline for the Spring Festival in 2 weeks. So yeah, this is something that's really worked out for me, and I think you could try it as well if you want. If you're on a crunching deadline, or if you just want more stable growth, have a try. Like, this is just my experience. I can't for sure guarantee, say, oh, this definitely works. But I know some of the scapers over in Europe, they run their CO2 24/7 as well. For the light, we've got the Chihiros Z Tiny Light. I think that's what it's called. It's quite interesting. It's a very small light, but it's quite powerful. I love the little shimmer, and you can also adjust the beam angle. So this one right now is set to the widest, but if you rotate this top bit, you can actually get it to be a very narrow beam angle. So it's almost like a torch. It works quite well. I like the shimmer effect. Plants seem to be doing fine. Okay, next up in the middle is the Dua Terra base scape. This is a classic. If you're a fan of aquascaping and terrariums, Dua is one of the coolest brands that make really cool products. They're basically same company as ADA. And the interesting about this is it is a ceramic cylinder that you can pour water into. And because ceramic, when it's not glazed, it absorbs water and then it seeps out the edges. So around the sides, the water seeps out, and that is basically giving moisture and water supply to the plants. And what we've done is we've wrapped weeping moss and a whole bunch of epiphyte plants around the cylinder so that they all get access to this water and the moisture. We've got a lot of different bucephalandras. We've got a Boo Skeleton King, Anubias as well, a couple of different ferns, some Java ferns as well, some, yeah, just bits and bobs. And what we also have is a little ADA stream pump at the back. And this is something that's quite new. Basically, it's a pump that sits at the bottom, at the back of the tank, and it's basically pumping water up into the cylinder. And what that does is it basically continues to rehydrate the cylinder. So previously, if you only had the cylinder, you'd add water, and over time, the water evaporates or it seeps out, and the top bit gets more and more dry, and some of the plants start to struggle. With this method, the fact that you're constantly pumping water into the Terra base and into the cylinder, that means there's always a constant supply of water that's trickling down this base. And that really helps with keeping the plants a lot more happy. This cylinder was only set up probably a couple days ago. That's why it's still looking very fresh. I'm very excited to see the moss kind of grow and kind of cover the entire base, cover some of the plants. Yeah, and just having a really nice slice of nature at home. Literally no maintenance, like just add water, make sure there's enough water, and probably take out the cylinder once every couple months just to give the moss a trim. On here, we've got a lid as well to maintain humidity, and this is the ONF Flat Nano Plus, I think. Yeah, does the job, really good light, has an app as well, yeah, standard. All right, this is the final scape, 45 centimeter Bioscape tank. We've got a Chihiros WRGB slim light and the humble Eheim skimmer. So yeah, we've got CO2 injection as well. As I mentioned, 24-hour CO2 injection. And yeah, it's quite a beautiful scape. I went with Dragonstone because in the studio, we don't have Dragonstone layouts. And you know, part of it was also to train my stem trimming skills, because in this year's IAPLC, I think I was let down a little bit by the stem plants. They were weren't the healthiest, and it was difficult to keep up with the trimming. And I kind of lost the kind of dense bushiness of stem plants. So this is the training ground. I want to improve that. So we've got kind of like a nice Dragonstone Brazilian style aquascape. As I mentioned, this is going to be at this festival as well. This one's going to be on sale as well. And you know, part of getting into the hobby is seeing these beautiful, lush bushes of rotellas, nice red plants as well. Something that is different, and I think that's part of it, is just trying to make all these different types of layouts for different kinds of people that can enjoy them. So we've got Dragonstone, multicolored, dripping down the edges. We've got some Marcellea in the foreground, and then Rotella blood red, Rotella green, and a bit of Limnophila Kalimantan mini in the midground as well. Yeah, this one has been really stable as well. To my surprise, like, I was a bit worried at the beginning, just putting on a skimmer, no biological media at all. Like, it was a sponge that comes with the skimmer. And yeah, I think a lot of plant mass used Aquasoil as well, and 24/7 CO2 really helped it. We had a bit of green thread algae at the start. It was mostly accumulating in kind of like the dead zones around the rocks, and also because it's very close to the light. But you know, with manual removal and as the plants grew more and more dense, the algae started going away. So I think it's proof that, you know, as long as you have a lot of plants, they help a lot with the filtration. And if you can plant densely since day one, get plants that are really fast growing, like these rotellas, yeah, you should get really good results. I also do, like the fact that part of it was to challenge myself to build something that has a lot of depth in a very small tank. And it's a bit of a juggle to make sure that having lots of depth, but also not making it too difficult for maintenance. And I think this one is quite well balanced in terms of majority of the trimming takes place in areas that are easily accessible, which is kind of at the top. And then leaving the kind of low maintenance plants like the Mastersoil in the kind of more tricky places, so you don't always have to go get your hand in and twist it into different angles just to trim some of the plants, and you don't have to do it as regularly as well. Yeah, and I kind of liked the accentuating the depths and how the path kind of leads you all the way to the back. There's also like a secondary path here that goes to nowhere, but kind of just leads your eye as well, adds some more interest. So one thing that I've realized is, even though I'm the one looking after all these aquascapes, in return, these aquascapes have been looking after me, both mentally and spiritually. And I was just reflecting on the journey, this is the reason why I got into the hobby and even starting this YouTube channel, is to kind of share that Zen and that healing kind of aspect of the hobby with people like yourselves that are watching this video right now. So just circling back to that, and the content that I'm going to bring out in the future is I want to emphasize that connection a little bit more, the connection between mindfulness in our daily lives and a connection to nature. I think there's a lot of things happening in this world, maybe good, maybe bad, but we can all learn from nature, and the things that we do, the layouts that we build, there's always something that intrinsically can help us, and we can gain or take something away from it in our daily lives. So yeah, that's something that I'm looking forward to sharing with you in the future as well. And that's going to be a wrap for today's video. If you've stayed till the very end with me, thank you so much. We've made it. But yeah, I'm excited to know and curious to know what you think of the studio space. What do you think I should change, or what should I add? And what kind of content that you'd like to see as well. Yeah, but all in all, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.